Hello everyone, you're welcome to another driving lesson video. This live stream is here to help you achieve your driving goals, or maybe just to help you be a better driver. But whatever your reason is for being here on this late Sunday afternoon, you're very welcome, and I invite you to ask any questions in the comment section, or you can email me as well if that's better. My email is on screen there at the bottom in the yellow, danetyghe@gmail.com. So today I'm going to be analysing a driving test report sheet. I got some great feedback from the candidate and from what the tester said to the driving test candidate. I'm going to share some tips about tyre safety, which sometimes comes up as a question in your theory part or the technical part of the driving test. And I'm also going to share some updates with you from the RSA and about the driving test currently. There's not a whole lot of changes, but there are some interesting developments that no harm to be aware of. If you would like to support me, you can do so by Super Chat if you have that option. You can also support me by PayPal if you would like to make a voluntary donation. Completely voluntary, as I keep saying. If you have a question, I'll answer it. If you want me to reply in detail to an email where you might look for feedback on a driving test, I'll still reply and give you all the information anyway. Any donations is completely voluntary at your own discretion. Don't forget to like this if you enjoy the content, and you can hit that subscribe button as well, and you can click on the bell notification, and that way you'll be notified whenever I upload a brand new video. Why not share your experience in the comment section about a test you had recently, or maybe concerns that you have about an upcoming test. It'll be interesting for me to read that, and I'll help you out if I can. myroadsafety.ie, that's the place where you book your driving test now. You can't ring the RSA, they won't take calls. You have to do it all through the My Road Safety online portal. NDLS, that's where you go to arrange your full license if you've passed your test, or to renew or get a learner permit. ndls.ie if you want to check that out. You'd normally book a slot first, and then they'll book you in, and you go down to the NDLS centre in your local area and get the photo taken and all that kind of stuff. TheoryTest.ie is up there as well if you do want to go for your theory test. That system is gradually getting back to normal now, and they're still doing some online theory tests as well, but the majority are still doing them by going into the theory test centres in towns across the country. Okay, so we have a comment in there already. Paulie, what's that? Paulie Mac. Hey Dane, hope you're well. Gonna book my test for the third time in Carlow. Do you hear of many people passing in Carlow? I know a few people who take a few turns. Carlow's a bit of a dodgy one at times. I've heard there's one or two testers there that kind of get up out of bed at the wrong side, if you know what I mean. But you see, don't let that put you off. I don't have any in-depth knowledge of Carlo. I'm just going by a couple of emails I got recently and talking to a few instructors over the years. But if you're good enough and you've prepared well enough, you'll pass your test, whether it's Carlo or Castlebar or Belfast, wherever. Okay. The test I've had, the actual testers were very. Just as I said that, I didn't get to that comment, but he's kind of saying what I was kind of worried about anyway. But anyway, let me read the comment. The test I've had, the actual testers were very intimidating towards me and not a bit nice at all. Yeah, well, that confirms what I said about Carlo. I don't know what it is about people in Carlow. I remember years and years and years ago there was a tester there called some Murphy fella or something, and occasionally he'd come down to Wexford and he would just cause absolute havoc down there. I actually made a complaint about him. I spoke to Marion Lamb, who's now one of the high-ranking testers in the RSA, and I gave her a piece of my mind, and she acknowledged and understood everything. But I don't think that fella's there anymore. But he was a right beaut, he was. I don't know what it is with Carlos. Sometimes you get unlucky with testers in a test centre. All I would say to you is do your best, get your lessons, do the best that you can, read your rules of the road book, and any online material that's also an option. But if you do feel that you've been treated badly by the driving testers, do not be afraid to make a complaint, because if testers are treating you in an unprofessional way and a disrespectful way, well then you don't have to take that. We're all taxpayers here. Your taxes pay their wages. Do not accept any kind of behaviour like that, because it's not acceptable in this day and age or in a previous day and age. and there are ways that you can make a complaint. But if you let that kind of behavior go and you accept bad behavior by testers, you're not doing yourself any favors and the people following you. I would say in the vast majority of cases, the driving testers are very professional, and they more often than not they do a good job. But you're always going to get a few bad apples, and you have to be able to stand up to those bad apples. Okay, one or two more comments then, folks, before I go into the updates that I have. Let's see, Adam Devlin, test nerves. Yes, I know what you mean, Adam. I made a video on driving test nerves there. It's the one with the green thumbnail there recently. Email me if you want me to send you the link, I'll do that. But I said in that video about nerves, if you can, and I know it's not easy for everybody to do this, but it's all about living in the moment. Because if you're nervous and you think more about the nerves and you become more aware of the nerves, it just can sometimes escalate and get worse and worse. So try to live in the moment. If you're sitting in the car waiting for the phone call, just focus on the fact that you're sitting in the car. Feel the weight of your feet against the ground, the weight of your backside against the seat. Focus on your breathing. They can help, but you have to show a bit of commitment to it and you have to give it a try. It's not all hairy-fairy stuff. It does work. I can testify to that. Okay, one more comment there. Hey, one question. If I have all 12 lessons done, but the 6 months haven't passed yet, could I apply for the test, or do I have to wait until the 6 months have passed? Both. The best thing for you to do there, if I'm saying that correctly, is wait until the 6 months have passed. You are allowed to apply beforehand, but it's your responsibility. It's the learner driver's responsibility to make sure that you have your learner permit over 6 months old. As to the best of my knowledge, the RSA on the My Road Safety portal, they don't have any software or any features built into their systems that's going to negate your application because you applied before 6 months. So just take responsibility for that yourself and just wait until the 5th or 6th month before you apply. Anyway, it'll give you more time to practice and get lessons, wouldn't it? I'll get to Jonathan Salmon's comment very soon. But Jonathan, I'm just reading Mullingar. I don't know, Jonathan Salmon, thanks for tuning in. I don't know anything about Mullingar, Jonathan. I'm based in Wexford, and I'd have certain familiarity with Waterford, Carlow and Gorey. But once you start going outside the southeast, I wouldn't really have any information on somewhere like the Midlands in Mullingar. But if anybody else, this is the whole idea of this live stream, if anybody else has done driving tests in Mullingar or Athlone or Tullamore, any of these places in the Midlands, to help Jonathan out there, let me know. I can't help you there, John. I haven't heard anything bad about Mullingar. I think the pass rate is somewhere around the average, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check that out for you. So sorry about that. But as I said to the other people, Jonathan, it's like if you do your own homework, get your lessons, practice, read the rules of the road book, and prepare as best you can, you're giving yourself the best chance, because more often than not the testers are pretty professional and they do a good job overall, notwithstanding the fact that there's always going to be a few bad eggs there. Okay, I'll get on to Neil Thompson's comment in a few moments, and as I said, I'm going to get into this driving test report sheet. Great feedback here. These are the kind of tests that I like. I like looking at them all. But this guy, he was so close. He wasn't really that far away. There was just a couple of issues on position and progress that are easily rectified, and he would have, he would have passed. But like I said, I'll get to that in a moment. Keep your comments coming in, folks. Any questions, I'm here to answer them for you. Okay, now let's talk about some updates that I have from the RSA that might help you as a learner driver, whether you're learning or preparing for the driving test. So what have we got here? I wrote them all down, obviously, so I don't try and memorize these things. Okay, the waiting time. The time people are waiting for the driving test is starting to come down to some sense of normality, shall we say. It's roughly 10 weeks now for the majority of driving test centres in the 26 counties. I'm not sure what it's like in the 6 counties of the north of Ireland. I haven't got information on that. But I know there are some issues in the north with the same as there are down south about waiting lists for driving tests. But in the 26 counties, it's an average of 10 weeks. 8 of the 60, so there's 60 test centres in the 26 counties. 8 of them have a waiting time of over 10 weeks, and the other 52 have an average of 10-week waiting list, which is not bad, and that's where you'd want to be. Because very often you'll like when you apply for the test, you're given 4 weeks notice anyway. So in effect, you're only really waiting 5 or 6 weeks, if that makes sense. There's an average of 33,000 waiting for the test now, but I think the way those figures are released, that means there's 33,000 with an invitation pending. There's probably many, many, many more in the system who haven't got an invitation yet, but I wouldn't really worry about that. They're just figures, you know. They can be adjusted, and they can change every few weeks depending on the waiting list. Let's see. Sometimes certain test centres might have a bit of a spike in a waiting list. Like for example, Galway has a higher waiting list, is a much busier test centre than say Wexford, and there could be a number of reasons for that. Like for example, Galway's a university town. There might be a lot more younger people there. There could be an issue with rotas, testers being out sick due to COVID, these type of things. So sometimes there are localised issues that causes a bit of a spike in a particular test centre. Drogheda is actually the longest waiting list at around 16 or 17 weeks. Drogheda in County Louth. The two Mulhuddard test centres in Dublin are not far behind. There's an average of 16 weeks on one of the Mulhuddard ones and 14 weeks on the other Mulhuddard one. 16, 17 weeks in Drogheda waiting list for the test, and 16 to 14 weeks in Mulhuddard as we speak. Now, even these figures are about a week or two old, so it might have even come down a bit by then, since the last time, sorry. Killester in Dublin as well, 14 weeks, so that's a couple of weeks over the average waiting time for a driving test. So Killester 14 weeks, and Galway, as I said, one of the busier ones, 14 weeks of a waiting time to do your driving test in Galway. The RSA want an average of 10 weeks for every single test centre in the 26 counties, and they do hope to achieve that in the month of February. It should be doable, that's what they say anyway, so hopefully it will be. The RSA have also announced that the absentee rate has reduced dramatically in recent times, as we have gradually getting through this whole COVID stuff, and they have, like a lot of other workplaces, suffered from absenteeism because of testers being out sick with COVID, but that has reduced a lot recently. What else was I going to say here? Yeah, the absentee rate had been really high, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months ago, but it has come down, thankfully. What else have I got here? I don't know what I was meant to write, so I don't have a clue what I wrote there. I might have to. It might come back to me later, but it's no big deal anyway. Reopening of test centres then as well, since we're on the whole thing about driving test centres and all that kind of stuff. So the vast majority of driving test centres are now open to the public and for driving test candidates. And so if you have friends or relations, or if your driving instructor would like to come in and wait with you before the test and meet you in there after the test, the majority of them are open now. And the majority of them will be opening this week, the week starting the 7th of February. So about 41 of them are hoping to be done this week, and the remaining 19, I think, because there's 60 test centres at the moment, will be reopened in the coming weeks towards March or April. In some of these test centres, the RSA doesn't actually own the test centre. Well, actually, in the majority of them, the RSA don't own them as such. They might be renting them from someone else, like a GAA club or some other tenant. So they don't always have the ability to change and adjust the COVID rules, if you know what I mean. Mask wearing and let me start that again. Mask wearing and hand hygiene will continue to be the norm for the foreseeable future in all RSA driving test centres. Okay, so that's staying, and driving test candidates will still be expected to wait in the car for the pre-test phone call from the driving tester. So make sure you have your phone ready, that it's not, well, I was going to say not on silent. You can have it on silent if you want, but just make sure you know that it's on vibrate, or that you're, expect the call basically, and make sure you don't have private numbers blocked. I know some people have a feature on their phone where they block private numbers. If you do that, to the best of my knowledge, the tester is going to be calling on a private number, so just watch out for that. So, as I said, the vast majority of test centres will be reopening as normal this week. The ones that won't will be as follows: Cork, in Ballincollig and Toker, the Finbar GA club. Clifton, Castlebar, Mallow, Burr, Dungarvan, Donegal, Drogheda, West Side in Galway, Gorey, Kilkenny, where the O'Loughlin Gaels GA club in the city is, and Kilrush. They're the ones that are not opening this week. They are hoping to open and resume normality to the public, but just not this week, probably in the coming weeks. Okay. So another interesting update I have for you here is in relation to changes to the highway code. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to give tire tips there in a minute. So, um, the highway code is a series of rules and regulations and driving advice that's mainly used in the UK, but in Ireland we kind of use it as a bit of a gospel as well. So testers, instructors, and indeed the RSA will often refer to that. It's a great source of information and guidance, and very often the highway code replicates what's in the Republic of Ireland as well. So there has been a couple of changes there recently to that to do with cyclists and pedestrian safety. I'm going to list those out there now. So, be interested to hear your thoughts. So, from the 29th of the 1st, 2022, the changes to the highway code include the following: the Dutch reach system for opening the door. Dutch reach. That means when you open your driver door, you should do it with the hand that's furthest away from the door handle. So, if you're in Ireland, that would be the left hand. So, that would force you to bring your left hand across like that and open the door, or put on your seatbelt as well, by the way, but mainly opening the door, and that will then force you then to have a look over your right shoulder like that to watch out for any cyclists or pedestrians that are coming. This was pioneered and invented in the Netherlands because it's the most cycle friendly country in Europe, in the world probably, along with Denmark maybe, and that's where it got the name the Dutch Reach. So that system has come in, and that is recommended as a way of behaving and acting both for your driving test and for general driving as per the highway code. It's a more cycle friendly feature. Certainly a good idea. If people can get into the habit, I don't see any harm for a small effort. It can prevent a lot of hardship, I suppose. The other interesting development, and there's been a few, but I'm just going to list the main ones. People crossing the road, say for example, if you're taking a left turn and you notice a person on the corner standing waiting to cross, will have the right of way. And this includes from any side. I actually thought it was left turns only, like so when drivers are making a left turn. But from researching it last night, it seems like all pedestrians will. So if you see a pedestrian, now I just want to say before I go any further, folks, this is for Great Britain only. Okay, like England, Scotland, and Wales. This does not apply to Ireland's 32 counties, at least not just yet. Anyway, it may come in the 6 counties, but it's not in there yet. This is I'm just kind of sharing with you some information about the updates to the highway code. This is not going to be law in Ireland in any of the 32 counties in Ireland. Okay, so let's just get that clear. But it's interesting to read it because very often we take our initiative here from the highway code because it's such a great source of information and advice on safe driving. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so people crossing the road now will have the right of way, even though it's not at a pedestrian crossing or not at a zebra crossing or anything like that. And this is to increase awareness of pedestrians and to increase pedestrian safety according to the highway code. But you must not beckon them out onto the road. It's very important to state that. Cyclists are also advised to cycle in the centre of the lane now, the centre of the lane on certain roads, not all roads. They're not advising cyclists to cycle in the middle of every single road, but on certain roads, such as quiet country roads, for example, or where there's a narrowing of the road further up, or in slow moving traffic. So, like on the approach to a junction, for example, the road might narrow a little bit, things like that. I know I cycle, and I often bring myself into the middle of the road, into the middle of the lane as I'm going to queue on a roundabout. I don't creep as a cyclist. I don't creep up on the left or the right of cars. I prefer just to move into the middle and pretend I'm a car, and that way the person in front of me can see me in his or her rear view mirror, and the person behind me has a clear view because I'm right in the middle of his front windscreen. So that's something I've been doing anyway. But there are just a few changes to the highway code. Let me stress again, this is going to apply in England, Wales and Scotland, not on the island of Ireland, at least not just yet. But as I said, it's interesting to follow these things because the highway code is a source of valid information, not just here and in Great Britain, but all over Europe and the world. Okay then, folks, so that's it. Now, some tire tips then before I'm going to get on to some comments, and I'm going to share with you some very useful tips on this guy's driving test, what happened to him. But let's talk about some tire tips first, okay? So now the tester may well ask you how would you check your tires, or what's involved in good tire safety or something like that as part of your driving test. But whether he's asking you that or not, or whether you're worried about him or her asking you that or not, doesn't really matter, because it's good to know these things anyway. The two main features of tire safety are depth and pressure. Okay, so you may know or you may not know that the minimum tire tread depth is 1.6 millimeters. Now that's only the bare minimum. You should never let the tire depth get that low, okay, because the tires are the only part of the car that touches the road. So the better care you take of your tires, the better care you're taking of yourself and others. The tire will have more grip on the road that way, and it'll be safer for everybody if you have tires with a proper depth and with the appropriate pressure. You can check it in a number of ways. You can bring it into any tire dealer, they'll check it for you. You can get a gauge. You can run your finger along the little groove in the central three quarters of the tires, and you'll see a little indicator barrel. It's like a little kind of a little humpback bridge, let's say, and when the level of the depth of the tire gets level with that little indicator barrel, that's 1.6. Or you can put a €1 coin into the middle three quarter grooves, various grooves in the middle three quarters of the tires, and if the gold part of the €1 coin is visible, well then that means you're getting below 3 mil, which is a warning sign that your tires are getting a bit low on the depth side. Okay, so the main reason we have good tire depth is for proper grip on the road. Okay, now the tire pressure, that can vary from car to car, but generally speaking you will be informed of the appropriate tire pressure in your car's manufacturer's handbook. That should say what it is. In mine, I think it's 32 psi, maybe a little bit more on the front because of the weight of the engine, but it's 32 psi. You might also find that recommended guidance for tire pressure on the inside of the driver's door, or maybe on the inside of the fuel cap as well, when you're going to fill up your petrol on the car, the fuel cap on the car. So they would be the two main things, the pressure and the depth. Having the appropriate pressure means that you're going to be driving more efficiently and in a more eco-friendly way. Okay. Bikes and vintage cars are allowed to have a minimum tire tread depth of 1 millimeter, but they'd be the exception to be a different category. You can also check your tire by just giving a visual look at it on the wall of the tire, the outside of the tire. So make sure there's no cuts or scrapes or screws or nails stuck in there, or bulges of any type, because you don't want to blow out on the road. So a simple visual check will help you with that. Sometimes if you see this kind of little white powdery stuff on the tire, it's known as perishing. So there's a bit of perish on the tire, and that's a sign of wear as well, and they'll need to be changed there and then, or very very soon, if you see that your tire's perishing. Also make sure that the nuts are nice and tight, that your hubcap is on securely, and that your air pressure valve cover is on nice and tight as well. They're the main things on tire safety. Let me see if I got everything there now for you folks. So yeah, the wall, make sure tight, nuts screwed on, air valve cover, check the depth. You can get it. You can check the depth with a tread gauge as well, as I was saying. The same way as you can get a tire pressure gauge as well in any auto factor shop or something like that. Yeah, and they'll be the main things. So in summary, make sure your tire tread depth is at least 1.6, but don't let it get that low. Make sure it has the appropriate tire pressure as per the guidelines. Watch out for any bulges or scrapes or cracks or perishing on the tire. You can see it on the wall. Make sure your hubcap is nice and tight, your air valve cover is on securely, and the nuts are all screwed on tightly. And that's how you would do a check of your tires. Remember, bring your car to a reputable dealer like FastFit or first fit, as I think they're called now, or advanced pit stop, or your local mechanic if you have any concerns about the tyres. So good tyre safety means good road safety. Okay, so let's get on to some comments then, folks, and then I'm going to get into giving you some feedback on this driving test report sheet here, and we'll find out what happened with this person's driving test. So let me see. We had, I think Jonathan, wasn't it, from Mullingar or something? Yeah. Now Neil Thompson there. Okay, let's see what Neil has to say. I've got a test in Drogheda on Wednesday. Have you heard much about tests in Drogheda? No. Any tips? No, I haven't heard much about tests there, Neil. I know there's a good lady, Amanda Hall, up in Dundalk. Don't know if she covers Drogheda now. She's a good lady up that way. Haven't heard anything bad up that way. No, haven't heard anything particularly exciting. I don't like. I would get a lot of emails and a lot of feedback from people, but that would mostly be about what happened on the actual test. I would like. I don't know if I should say this or not, but like Carlo is a little bit of a black spot, and it has been in my experience since I became a driving instructor over the behaviour of testers. I don't know what it is up there, mate. I don't know if it's to do with how the Gaelic football team are so bad or something. I got a good beating today. I don't know what's the story there, or something in the water up that direction. I don't know, but I haven't heard anything about any other places. I think I remember a rumour going around about Ennis being very easy to pass, and a lot of Dublin centres being a nightmare because you see, if you compare somewhere like a test centre in the west of Ireland that might be quiet, they might not have a lot of traffic on the road, um, they might have nice wide streets compared to somewhere like Dublin, which is an older city, busier, a lot more complicated junctions, a lot bigger junctions, a lot more traffic lights, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes you might find it a bit trickier in the bigger cities because there's more things that can happen or more variety of junctions. Whereas if you're down the country in somewhere like Ennis or Salthill or one of these places in Galway, it's maybe you could say it's a bit easier. But sorry, Neil, I don't have anything specific on Drogheda. I haven't heard anything bad about it, anyways. If that helps you, but as I said to everyone else, as long as you do your end of the bargain and you prepare as best you can, that's all you can do. The rest will sort itself out. Costel Mignon, if I'm saying that correctly. Hi, then. I'm expected to book my test on the 7th of the 3rd. Is that when they will give me to pick an appointment? I think that's the time you have to book at Costel. Yeah, if you leave it after that, you probably go back into the queue. I think that's what if I'm understanding it correctly, that's what I think is the case there. Feel free to ask again or to clarify that question further down. It looks like I think the invitations kind of expire after a certain amount of time to give you time to see if it suits you. Prince Charming, what a great name. Hi, Dan. Actually, it's Dane, as in the Great Dane, but don't worry about it. Do you know what are the main category of questions they ask in the practical exam? If it's the level, matters, rules of the road, or managing risks, safety, responsible driving, etc. No, it's like it's just general questions on the rules of the road, like about the yellow box, the clearway, overtaking on the left, pedestrian crossings. It's mainly to do with the actual rules of the road and to do with practical driving and pedestrian safety and traffic lights and road markings, that kind of stuff, as well as making sure that you know your road signs. Are you asking me No, I don't think they're going to ask you so much about managing risk or safety or getting too technical like that. That's kind of done in the theory test, and generally speaking, in the actual driving test, it pertains more to actual practical driving, like the questions like, what's the rule with a yellow box, or when are you allowed to stop in the yellow box? You're not, except turning right. Or what does the flashing amber arrow light mean? You can go as long as it's safe and there's nobody coming on the adjoining road. Things like that. It's mostly like that. It's not necessarily the theory test, but you have to understand the driving testers will always have a fair bit of discretion, and they might throw in a bit of a curveball there, and that's their entitlement. But it just depends. I mean, if anybody has had any experience of that, please let us know down in the comment section if you've got an awkward question. This guy got a few technical questions in his test here. You see where up there where it says technical checks, the grade ones. I'm going to be explaining that now in a minute. He got a few about brakes and steering and that kind of stuff, where they kind of, they kind of border between technical and driving questions, but that's why it's under the category technical checks. Okay, a few more comments then before we get to the driving test report sheet. Alan Burke passed my test 2 weeks ago. Great news. On my first attempt in Birr, County Offaly, and the tester was really nice, made me feel comfortable from the minute I arrived. That's great, that's what you want, Alan, a tester that is normal and doesn't have an axe to grind, because you're probably going to be driving more normally that way anyway. If a tester is acting the maggot with you and being rude and being unprofessional, it's probably not going to have a good impact on the learner driver, and they're probably not going to drive as well as they can. So when a tester is nice and polite and professional, like Alan explained there, you're going to bring the tester's going to feel better, and the learner driver's going to feel better, and you're going to get a more realistic gauge as to what kind of driver they are. That's good news, Alan. Congratulations to you. Costel Minion again. What do you reckon on tests in Tala? Yeah, Tala, good old spot. Haven't heard anything good, bad, or indifferent about Tala. The only thing I'd say is it's in the Greater Dublin area, which means that the last time I checked, the pass rates in Dublin were a lot lower than, say, the pass rates in the west or the south or the north, because of probably I'm assuming because of the more complex junctions that are there, because of the volume of traffic, more people, more hazards. But as I said, all you can do is your best, prepare as best you can. Dobre Viechor, Wojciech is back. I was thinking you're a bit late, but I'm kind of made an impromptu live stream today, Wojciech. I was thinking of going tomorrow on the live stream, and I thought it'd be better if I do it today, because I had some free time this afternoon. So that's why it's kind of I wasn't necessarily expecting to be live today. But you're very welcome, Wojciech. Any questions, let me know. And best wishes to you as well. Liam Fitzgerald, I have 6 lessons to go and have paid, and I'm on the waiting list for my test. Will I be offered a test after the 12 lessons are done, or will I be given a date and have to complete my lessons beforehand? You'll have to do the lessons first, Liam. They're not going to give you a driving test date until you've got the 12 lessons done. If you got the 12 lessons done before the 6 months, you could possibly get a date earlier, but you have to make sure that you do not sit that test until after the learner permit is 6 months old. But to answer your question, you will have to do the 12 lessons fully done and uploaded by the driving instructor before you get a test date. If the 12 lessons are not done and uploaded, there will be no test date. And good luck to you with that, Liam Fitzgerald. Andrew Lennox, hi Dane, just want to say thanks for the very informative videos, helped me pass my test 2 weeks. So you're very welcome, Andrew, well done to you. I'm very pleased to be able to help point you and others in the right direction, because I want to help you all to achieve your driving goals. And by doing that, knowledge is information is knowledge, and knowledge is power. So if I can share my knowledge with you and help you all achieve your driving goals, that's good for me. And if I can make a few bob off on the back of it, sure, happy days. I don't have to do the old 9 to 5 then. But congratulations to you, Andrew. Delighted to be able to help you. And to anybody else, if you want to subscribe and watch any videos, or if you want to email me at danetyghe@gmail.com, I will get back to you eventually. And I could get anything from 5 to 20 emails a day, which could be 50 to 70 a week. So it's sometimes these days it's taking me a little bit longer to reply to emails. I used to be able to do it the same day, but I do endeavor to get back to each and every email and to reply to each and every comment on my YouTube channel. Okay, so please bear that in mind. Okay, 2 or 3 more comments, then we're going to get into this driving test report sheet. So by my, or be me, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. What sign excuse me, what sign of if the brake has an issue? Okay, I'm going to have to try and decipher this comment now. What sign is of if the brake? So I think you might mean if there's a problem with the brakes, is it, on your car? Would there be a sign, like I'm going to guess that you mean a warning light on the dashboard, maybe? Possibly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is on every car now, but I know on my car, if there's a problem with the brakes, a red light will come up. It'll be kind of like this, almost like 2 ears, like earphones, and a little kind of a eye thing down the middle. I think that's what you mean, but you'd probably see it on the dashboard, or if the brakes feel a bit funny or a bit spongy, which is what this driving test candidate actually had as well. You know, you might notice to be a problem with your brakes if the brake pedal feels a bit funny. Maybe the brake fluid is a bit low. I'll be getting into that in a minute. Okay, Cheyenne, I think, Downey. Cheyenne, what a great name that is, actually. Dane, can you go over stopping in housing estates? You would roll into first gear and look both ways and go if it was clear. I did my test a while ago and failed. He said I didn't need to stop for long. Okay, so if the tester said that you didn't need to stop for long, then that has to be the case, because 99.9% of the time with the testers, it's absolutely nothing personal, and it's just their interpretation, and usually that's the correct interpretation because they're the professionals. So you have to kind of think about it as a housing estate. In a housing estate, you might have yield signs and you might have stop signs. Okay, now the yield is with the triangle sign or with the white triangle on the ground, or maybe a broken line. The stop sign is a solid line, the octagon stop sign, or it might be you might just have the sign without the line. So you have to differentiate and make sure that you don't have that you're not rolling into first gear and keeping going through a stop sign. And at the same time, if it's a yield sign, you may well not need to stop for that long. You may have to do what I like to call the first gear trick, which means when you're coming up to a yield sign, let's say it's in a quiet housing estate, as Cheyenne said, maybe on a slight uphill. As you get closer to the yield line, you can just kind of pop into first gear, come very, very slowly and gently off the clutch, and then maybe just keep going if there's nothing there, but just keep the old head moving. Don't steer the one way, either left or right. Keep the head moving, get the last look, and continue on. Then make sure you turn left, keep turning left so you don't swing wide, if you're turning left, that is. So Cheyenne, it's good advice from the tester. You may not have to stop all the time. You see, you don't want to be stopping too long if there's no need. My answer is it depends on the situation. Like, you have to be careful that you're not misjudging or mixing up yield signs with stop signs. And if you can clearly differentiate between yield and stop, and there's no discrepancy or no issue there, well, then you have to stop fully at a stop line. But there's no need to stop at a yield line if it's safe. Now, you were saying there didn't need to stop for long, so maybe you stopped for too long. I normally say 3 seconds. 3, 1, 2, 3. When you're at a stop sign, because if you stop for 3 seconds at a stop sign, that gives you plenty of time to get at least 3 looks when you're turning left. So if you're going left, for example, you'd be stopping, you might look once, twice, and back this way again, and then go. You have to get at least 3 seconds to get the required looks in. So you might go like stop, looking this way, and that way. That's what I meant. Sorry, I meant like right, left, right. At least, and normally 3 seconds is the length of time, but that's just a figure I've plucked out of the sky. It's not a special rule or anything like that. So feel free to let me know about your response to that, Cheyenne, further down, if I've answered that correctly for you, or if you want any more clarification, just let me know in the comment section, or email me there at danetyghe@gmail.com. Okay, 1 or 2 more comments. Owen Foley, any advice on hill start? I stall the odd time. I'm bringing the clutch up too soon. So stalling on the hill start, yeah. Well, Owen, I have a great video on hill starts. Email me if you'd like me to send you the link. But there's a couple of things to do in a good hill start, Owen, okay? What are you saying here again? I'm bringing the clutch up to, you're stalling the odd time. So if you're stalling the odd time, there's probably 2 main reasons for this, okay? You're not giving it enough juice, maybe. Possibly not giving it enough juice. Or maybe, like you said, you're bringing the clutch up too soon. But it could also be because when the car starts moving, okay, so when you let the handbrake down and the car starts moving forward on the hill, moving forward uphill, you have got to keep your feet still for at least 5 seconds, at least. And that means the car is going to be more controlled and more solid, because if you try and lift the clutch up as you're moving off on the hill, you're going to get a bit of a chuggy sound, and it might threaten to stall on you. Another thing for you there, Owen Foley, is as you're keeping the feet still on the hill as you move off, Make sure as well that you're given a little bit of extra acceleration for the first few seconds that you move off, and that just can give you the little bit of power that's needed. So it might be a little bit of imbalance with your feet there, that's all. You're probably well able to do a hill start, but maybe the balance is not quite right with the feet. So make sure that you get the second bite, which is a little bit higher than the first bite, a little stronger bite. Handbrake goes down, feet steady as you move off, feet very, very steady, and a bit of extra juice, you should be fine. Check out my video on hill starts, that should be able to help you there. Okay, another question is Sean Thornton, if your test is not conducted, can you reapply straight away? I'm not sure what you mean by non-conduct. Like if it's not conducted, the tester will or the RSA sorry will give you another test date, usually free of charge if it's not their fault, like if a tester's sick or something like that, or if there's an issue maybe with I don't know, some issue like tester's been sick is the only one I can think of, or tester's been absent, whatever. So you'll I mean that's what normally would happen if there is an issue with the test not being conducted and it's not your fault, not the learner's fault. The RSA will usually give you a test date very in the next possible in the next slot. So yeah, you don't. Maybe you'll have to reapply if it's your fault. So like if you turned up for the test and your learner permit was out of date, or your insurance disc was a bit dodgy or something like that, then that'd be your fault. You'd probably have to reapply. That reminds me, actually, I got an email there from a guy from originally from Africa or Asia or somewhere. It sounded anyway by his name, so maybe he wasn't familiar with the rules. But when he turned up to his driving test anyway, he had weeks and months earlier, he actually cut out the green part of the insurance disc. He cut it out, and when he came up for his driving test, then the tester says, "I don't see the green slip on the side of the insurance disc. Can't do your test. Sorry, no, that invalidates the insurance disc." And he was very confused and distraught at that. And then he eventually found out anyway soon enough, and he was relaying this experience to me. So that would be an example of where it will be your own fault and you have to reapply again. So quick tip, folks, I know sometimes the insurance discs are going to be a little bit big for the little pocket that they go in, but just fold it over on the green side if you can. Don't cut it out, because if you cut out the green part, it's going to lead to problems with the driving test. Speaking of driving tests, this guy emailed me his report sheet in. He did his test on the East Coast. I think it was somewhere in Wicklow. Maybe Gorey, I'm not sure, Gorey or Wicklow. And he didn't do too bad. He got 12 grade 2 marks, no grade 3s, okay, and just a couple of grade 1s, which are not very major, not a big deal, like. So it was a good effort. It wasn't meant to be, and the few issues there on position and progress particularly are the ones that caught him out, but he picked up a few on observation as well. So this is one of those tests that a lot of you will probably have experience of, where you're close but not quite there. Just fell down on a couple of grade 2 marks. So let's have a look now at the feedback that he shared with me, that he knows what happened, that some of the things he knows what happened, and some of the things that the tester said to him as well. Tester gave him some good feedback, actually. And obviously I'm going to share that with you now, so you can hopefully not let these things happen to you, okay? So the first one I have down here anyway is about steering. Now, if we look at the report sheet here, we can notice that there's 1 grade 1 mark on rules and checks and 2 on technical checks. So these are only minor marks. They don't really impact on the overall result, but the green is minor, and then the blue is more serious, but not very serious, and then the red is very serious. So he thinks his memory is a bit hazy, but he thinks he was asked a question on steering, and he doesn't remember fully, but he thinks that the tester might have asked him the theory question at the start: how would you check your steering is working effectively? Now, he gave some answer that he doesn't think the tester was too impressed with, from what he said in the email, and it was marked as a wrong answer, let's say, and that's where he got one of the questions wrong there. Now, I'm not sure if the tester marked them under rules and checks or technical checks. Probably since it's a technical check, I suppose. although it is a theory question on the technical thing, so I'm not really sure where that would fall under, but it doesn't really matter anyway. So if you're asked how to check your steering, okay, before you start the car, as you try and move the steering wheel, it should be locked. Before the car's even started, the wheel should be locked and stiff, and you shouldn't be able to move it. Now, when you start the engine then, the steering should be able to move freely and without any strange feeling, without any stiffness, without any rattling, without anything that's considered odd or unusual. Okay, if you notice as you're driving in a straight line that the car is kind of dragging to one side or dragging to the left side or the right side one, then that might indicate that there's a problem with the steering. You may notice there might be a problem with the steering if you see a warning light on the dashboard with a steering wheel symbol of some type. It could mean that there's a problem with your power steering then, or some issue with the steering. Okay. You could also check your steering as well if you go to a safe, quiet area, like off the road, like a really, really quiet car park with nobody around, no people, no cyclists, something like that. And if you just drive in a slow straight line, and if you feel the steering kind of dragging to the left or right there in that safe, quiet area, that might indicate that there's a problem with the steering. Now, it could be to do with the brake pads, it could be to do with a worn suspension part, it could be some other underlying issue there, okay? What else did he say then? Let's see. Yeah, so that was one question he was asked. He also was asked a question about the brakes. Now, he remembers the tester saying something about the word spongy. So it was almost like the tester was trying to maybe give him a little hint or a little clue. So he thinks it might have been about the brakes. So, like a question like this, for example, the tester might have said, what would a spongy feel on the brake pedal indicate to you as a driver? So the tester's basically saying if your brake pedal felt a bit spongy, what would that mean? Now it would mean that there'd be some kind of problem with the brakes, with the brake pedal. Maybe there's a lack of proper pressure coming to the brakes. Maybe there's a problem with the brake fluid. But there's some kind of problem anyway with the brake pedal if you get the feeling that your brake pedal is a bit spongy, okay? He also was asked a question about the tyres. Now, he wasn't asked about the tyre tread depth because he said he was prepared for that and he knew about that. So it was probably something to do with how would you check your tyres. And as I already explained earlier in the live stream, you would check your tyres. There's two main parts to a tyre check: the depth and the pressure. So make sure the pressure is according to the manufacturer's guidelines. Maybe in your logbook that will be mentioned, or you might find it on the inside of the fuel cap or the inside driver's door, your tire pressure in PSI. Make sure it's the appropriate pressure. Make sure the tread depth is appropriate and safe, like no less than 1.6, and watch out for any bulges or scratches or cracks on the tire wall. Make sure all your hubcaps, your screws, and the air valve cap are nicely and tightly screwed on. Okay. So that was that. So it looks like this chap was asked a few technical questions as well there as part of his theory. They may have kind of overlapped into technical checks as well. The theory questions might have overlapped into technical checks, but I'm assuming like he didn't give me any detailed information about how did the tester ask him inside or did he ask him outside. But it doesn't matter anyway. They were the questions he was asked. Other feedback then he got. He was marked on position on the straight. Okay, now how many? There's a few there, isn't there? 2 marks on position on the straight. Now, he says that he was brought onto the N11, which is the main road between Wexford and Dublin. So he wasn't expecting to be brought onto the main road, and a lot of learners just seem to be surprised by this. But I can tell you, folks, that the tester is perfectly entitled to bring you out on a national road. It's a national road. It's not a motorway. So just be prepared to drive on a national road if you have a ring road in your area or if you have a main road close enough to the town that you're doing it in. It's very, very possible that you're going to be asked to drive out there. It's always at the discretion of the tester. So anyway, he wasn't sure. It was kind of a dual carriageway situation, and he ended up in the right-hand lane, whereas the golden rule is if you're going onto a dual carriageway, you must always, always start in the left lane unless the tester says otherwise. Okay, so that was why he lost 1 mark there. Observation moving off, he acknowledges himself that there was 1 mark there on that. He just forgot his blind spot moving off. And this is why I always say to people, you need a system when you're moving off, okay? I call it the 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, go to gear number 1. 2, you've got 2 indicators, so indicate to the right, or the left, but usually you'll be parked on the left, so you indicate to the right usually. 3, you've got 3 mirrors, so make sure you check all 3 mirrors and the blind spot. You can call the blind spot 4 if you want, but 3 mirrors and blind spot. 3 mirrors, proper blind spot over the shoulder. Don't look like that. Proper blind spot, and off you go. But if it takes you if it takes you a couple of seconds longer to move off, or if you're delayed moving off because of traffic coming, make sure you do all 3 mirrors and a proper blind spot again. But he acknowledges that he forgot a blind spot once, and that's why he lost the mark on observation moving off. Observation changing lanes. Now he thinks this is connected with his little journey onto the dual carriageway of the N11. Because he doesn't necessarily remember changing lanes a whole lot, but it could have been something to do with that. Now he didn't know what it was, but look, usually if you lose a mark on changing lanes under observation, it's usually to do with a lack of mirror checks first and foremost. So when you're changing lanes, the tester will try to give you plenty of notice. So make sure if you're going from, say, probably the more common to go from the left lane to the right lane, I assume most times. So make sure you check the middle mirror and the right mirror, and then indicate. Get the indicator on early so people know what you're doing. Now, as you're going across, before you actually go across, make sure you double check the mirrors before you even move. So that's 4 mirror checks, okay? 4 mirror checks before you even move, okay? The initial 2, an indicator, and then the next 2 before you go. The initial 2 set the scene, gives you a good view of what's going on, and the second 2 are like your confirmation checks, okay? And then even as you're going across, okay, even as you're moving across lanes, do so gradually, nice and gently, gradually, and keep checking the mirrors as you're going. Now, before you actually move across, you could get a quick sideways glance like this, just to say, don't let the chin go beyond the shoulder. Just a very, very, very quick sideways glance, but don't do it for too long, and don't do it more than once. There should be no need to do it more than once. But if you're in any way concerned that it's a little bit busy in front of you, forget the shoulder check and just rely on your mirrors, okay? It does depend on the situation. But anyway, observation changing lanes, usually down to a lack of mirror checks before and as he changed lanes. Let's see. Oh yeah, another bit of feedback. He said he acknowledged that he probably changed lanes a bit fast. So now this goes without saying, if you rush the lane change, whether it's accidentally due to pressure or stress or anxiety, but if you rush the lane, pardon me, if you rush the lane change, well, that means you're not going to have a chance to get the proper looks then. I doubt you're going to be getting the minimum 4 looks that I explained there. If you go across too quick. So maybe there was a little bit of panic, maybe a little bit of stress there, and he rushed across the lane change, did it too quick. Doing it too quick means you don't have time to do the proper looks. What else we got here then? Signals. He acknowledges that he indicated too early on one occasion, far too early, and it would have given someone behind the wrong idea as to where he was going. So he knows what that was. Might have been a left turn, just indicated too soon. Progress on the straight. Now he definitely admits this one. He was too slow. More often than not, on the driving test, you're going to be in a 50-kilometer zone. Now maybe a 60 zone. Like I said, everywhere is different. But you're going to be more likely in a 50-kilometer zone most of the time. Sometimes 60, and maybe 80 or 100 the odd time as well. But you need to be consciously aware of the speed limit. Okay. The last sign that you saw is the speed limit, unless you're told otherwise. Most roads, not all roads, most roads will have a reminder speed limit. So if you're in a 50 zone, but you then join a main road, very, very shortly after joining that main or more major road, let's say a more major road, you should see a reminder sign just after you turn in to tell you that the speed limit is now 60, for example, where it was 50 before, now 60. So keep an eye out for those signs. That's why they're white and red as 2 colors are meant to stand out, okay? Just like the like button up here and subscribe button up there. So keep an eye on those. Try not to drive too slow. Try not to be too cautious on your driving test because it's a driving test. Because if you're going to be doing that, if you're going to be driving 40 in a 50 zone like this fellow was, you're going to risk losing marks pretty quickly, and they will build up. And testers can be pretty ruthless when it comes to progress marks, believe me. The tester wants to see someone driving normally, driving efficiently and driving with a degree of confidence, okay? And you can do that by driving 50 or 51 even in a 50 zone, as long as it's safe and as long as it's a good road surface and you have a good wide road and there's no obstructions, okay? So show confidence, be confident. If you are, the tester will have confidence in you, okay? The brake pedal. This, I was thinking about an interesting tip I was going to share with you here now. I don't know if this is relevant to everybody, but maybe to some people. What he told me about the foot brake was that when he was coming out of the test centre, at the very, very, very start of the test, he was just coming to a stop sign at the end of the road at the test centre. He acknowledges that he braked too hard. He just pressed the brake too hard, and he felt himself and the tester kind of shunt forward a little bit. Now, it wasn't a big deal. It was just a grade 1, or sorry, it was a grade 2 mark. It's not like it was grade 3, but it's of course it's not ideal. Now, I would always advise people, okay, to get a driving lesson the hour before the driving test. Unless that's a problem, maybe because of work or maybe because of some personal issue, or maybe you just don't want it because it might make you more nervous. Fair enough, I understand all that if that's the way it is. But in the majority of cases with me over the years, I would advise people to get a lesson the hour before the test. And therefore, if you're using, say, my car, or your parents' car, or some car that you're not necessarily all that familiar with, the fact that you've got a pre-test 1 hour driving lesson before the actual driving test means that you're just a bit more familiar with the car. You've kind of warmed up, let's say, and you're probably less likely to lift the clutch too quick or to brake too hard like this person did. Now, I don't know if he did or didn't get a lesson before the test. It's kind of something that came to me a few hours ago when I was preparing for this live stream. But I would always recommend a lesson the hour before the test, just to get you warmed up and to do maybe a test route, and just so you have some familiarity with the car. Because I think you'd be less likely to do something kind of, you'd be less likely to be rough around the edges if you've already had a warm-up lesson, as long as it suits the individual. Okay, and then the reverse, interesting one here on the reverse. Yeah, he sounded like he was well able to do the reverse. From what he said to me in the email, he feels confident on this. He felt he did it reasonably well. He finished close to the curb. But the thing was, the tester said to him, "You did it too slow. You were too slow," and that comes down to what does it come down to? A bit of discretion by the tester. It comes down to sometimes there's a fine line between reversing slowly and carefully, and, for want of a better phrase, taking the piss. Okay, so when you're reversing on the reverse around the corner, if you do it too slowly, like I'm talking like crawling pace, okay, the tester's going to feel like you're just dragging this out too much, and the tester will probably feel a more competent, as the heading says there, a more competent, more efficient driver would do this, let's say, at walking pace. Okay, so if I can give you that kind of visualization between crawling pace and walking pace, okay, it is good to take your time on the reverse, but not to drag it out too much, because at the end of the day, the tester wants to get this thing done and get back to the test center so he can have his cup of tea or coffee, or so he can get to his next candidate. Okay, here's a tip for you. If you're on the reverse around the corner and you're very conscious about going slow, okay, do take your time. For example, do go at crawling pace for the tricky part. That's the part where the curb disappears when you're right in the middle of the bend. You know that part there, right in the middle of the bend, and when the curb is coming back in and you're trying to straighten up about 3/4 of the way through. Take your time there. Go slow there. But for the straight part of the reverse, like when you're parked at the start and you're going back the first few seconds, that part, and the end part after you've straightened up and all that, well then, get back to doing it at a walking pace speed then, if that makes sense. So maybe if we kind of use that as a bit of a balancing act, okay? Go slow for the tricky parts where you're turning the wheel, but just go a little bit faster on the straight parts. I think you might get the balance right then, okay? Okay, and then one last piece of advice that the tester said to me, and I'll briefly go down through the whole thing now. The tester said specifically at the end he wanted to make it clear that the tester felt, that he was too far back at junctions and roundabouts sometimes, and you were a bit too cautious on creeping out. So that was interesting advice, because it's the classic case of a situation where your observation is linked to your position, because you have to be in a good position in order to have good observation. If you're taking a left turn or a right turn, like you can see here, observation turning right, observation turning left, 1 grade, 2 mark on each occasion there. So if you're a little bit too far back and you're blocked by a wall or by trees or a hedge or something like that, you can see how the lack of an ideal position is going to affect your observation. So fair enough, if you do stop a bit short, that's grand, that's okay. We can all make a misjudgment, but at least get yourself into a position where you can see better then by creeping up slowly. If you correct it, it might not be a big deal. But if you're too slow or hesitant about creeping forward, well then your position is going to also inadvertently cost you on observation. Okay, so the tester wanted to make that clear to him at the end, and it's good advice. Okay, it's good advice. So I hope you can be aware of that too. So there were the main things that he remembered from his test, the mistakes he acknowledged, and the key feedback that the tester gave him. Okay, let's go briefly down through it now to make sure I've covered everything there. So the technical checks, yes, so that would probably to do with the question on the brake pedal and the steering, as I said. Sometimes technical checks come under the engine checks, like the oil or the brake fluid under the bonnet, things like that, or maybe they might come under the inside the car checks. But anyway, they're only grade 1, so no big deal. Position on the straight, as we said, I think I'm almost certain that because he started in the right lane on a dual carriageway, and because he didn't start in the left lane, that cost him there. There's a second mark as well. There's 2 marks on position on the straight, so maybe he was just not left of centre enough. He might have been driving along and he might have been a bit in the centre of his lane, on a wide lane, like he might have been in the centre of the lane instead of being more left of centre. I could have been a bit on the right of the lane when he should have been more left of centre. Like if you're driving in a narrow lane, okay, you should be pretty central then for safety, so you have an equal distance on your left and right. But if you have a big wide lane, like a big wide lane, well then you should be more left of centre. You have to judge your position. Your position is based on what kind of lane you have ahead of you, okay? So that's where position on the straight marks sometimes pop up. Being in the wrong lane, maybe not starting in the left lane when they should have started in the left lane, or maybe just not being left of centre on a wide road. But it is a broad area. It does depend on the situation, of course. Observation, moving off. So we know that was because he forgot the blind spot. Remember, when you're talking about blind spot, first of all, you have to make sure you get your blind spot. That's why I said to you a few minutes ago, make sure you have a system. When you're moving off from the side of the road, 1, 2, 3, okay? So 1 gear stick, 2 indicators, 3 mirrors, and the blind spot. You can call the blind spot number 4 if you want. I just call it all in 3. 1, 2, 3. Say that to yourself every single time, and then you're less likely to forget anything like signals or like observation. On the blind spot, make sure it's a good, proper blind spot. So you look over your shoulder like that. So this shoulder here should come up like that, and your head and eyes need to be looking out the back passenger window, not your own window beside you, the back passenger window. So turn your head right around so you got a good view. Don't forget to refresh the blind spot if you're delayed moving off. You may need to refresh it if you're delayed, okay? And even as you're moving off, make sure you check your middle and the right mirror just as you're pulling away, just for extra safety, and you're covering all your angles then. Observation change lanes, as I explained, more than likely down to a lack of mirrors. Maybe didn't get a quick sideway glance. Maybe got too much of a sideway glance. Maybe got too much of a blind spot. Sometimes people lose marks there for overdoing the looks as well. I'm sure you might be surprised to hear that, but it does happen a lot. But normally if someone loses marks on observation changing lanes, it's down to a lack of mirror checks, maybe a lack of a sideway glance as you're going across. Observation turning right and turning left, I think that might be connected to a poor position turning right and turning left, and the tester marked them on their observation. But if you're losing marks for observation turning right and left, it's usually down to not enough looks left and right. This person, I think, may have been a bit far back, and that may have affected it. Probably did affect his observation. If you are at the line anyway, even when you're coming up to the line, sorry, even before you get there, on the approach to the line, make sure you're doing this anyway. Looking left and right anyway, just little slight little head movements, so you can get an idea of what it's like up there. Is there anybody waiting? Is there any cyclists, pedestrians? What's the volume of traffic like going across? When you get to the line then, make sure you keep the old head moving, especially if you're turning right, because if you're turning right, you're crossing 2 lanes, okay? that means you've got double the work to do, so double the looks. So as long as you keep the head moving, and if you're going left, just as you cross the white line, get one last look right. If you're going right, after you cross the stop line, one last look left. Keep the head moving. Many quick looks is best. Don't forget the one last look. Moving down to signals. Misleading. Well, it is what it is, it's a misleading signal. He indicated too early. Might have given the car behind or certain cars in front the wrong idea as to where he was going. So just indicated the wrong time. Progress on the straight, going too slow. He admits he was going 40 in 50 zones, and he needed to speed up, needed to show more confidence there on the road. It's very important that you don't drive too slow. If the speed limit is 50, go 50 or 51 or 52. If it's 60, go 60, 61, 62. Don't hang around. Each road is different, so if you look ahead and you see a road with lots of parked cars, a few bumps, a few potholes, things like that, a few pedestrians lacking in common sense, maybe, then okay, fair enough. Then don't go 50. Then don't do the speed limit. But if you see a good straight road ahead of you and there's very little in the way of hazards that looks like no speed bump, something like that, put the foot down, get up to fourth gear, and give it some juice. Sometimes this could be linked to gears as well. So I mean, if you're in third gear when you should be in fourth gear on a good straight road, you can see how gears might be linked to progress then. So in summary, if it's safe to go, just go. If it's safe to hit the speed limit, then do it. If you show confidence in your own ability, the tester will show confidence in you. Vehicle controls foot brake. Well, it's simple enough. He just braked too hard. Okay, I think he might have maybe he did get a pretest. I don't know. Maybe if he didn't get a lesson, he might have been a bit kind of came in a bit cold. Maybe the unfamiliar with the car. Who knows? But the more familiar you are with the car, the better. And if you have a pre-test lesson the hour before the test, that can help get you warmed up and get you more used to the controls, whether it's the indicators or the wipers or in this case the foot brake. So anyway, he braked too hard. Little brake too abruptly at the start of the test. That's why he got the mark there. And as I said on competency on reverse, he seemed well able to do it. He didn't get marked on observations. That's a good sign. He looked behind a lot. He checked over his shoulders, because it is very important on the reverse around a corner that you do not look in the mirrors too much. A lot of people end up spending too much time looking in the mirrors and lose marks. So it looks like he did well on the observation, and he seems like he did a good reverse, but he just did it too slow. Okay, too slow. Yes, go slow, just don't take too long to do it though. As I explained, walking pace is good. Crawling pace might be stretching it a bit. Okay, I said earlier as well, just in case you missed it. On the straight part of the reverse, so like at the very start and the very end, don't be afraid to give it a little bit of, I won't say speed, but a little bit of momentum, let's say. But on the bendy part, where it's bendy and you're turning the wheel, well, take your time there then, okay? But, it's like everything. You have to use common sense and you have to use a bit of balance. Do it slow, just not too slow. Okay, so hopefully that helped you there, folks. Let's get on to some comments here now. I'm going to answer some questions if you have any here. Where are we? Cheyenne, I remember that. Owen Foley, I remember that. Sean Thornton, yeah. Margassus Artheben. Okay, anyone on Deirdre's driving class? She is brilliant. No, don't know who's Deirdre. Is that a YouTube channel or instructor? Don't know, but give a shout out to Deirdre's driving class anyway. EJ, passed my test last week. Second time trying, got 1 grade 2 fault. Thanks for your videos, and you're very welcome, EJ. Congratulations. Glad to be able to help you out on the YouTube. It's a great source of knowledge and information, YouTube is. And well done. You proved yourself to be a good driver, so well done. And now you have a full European license to chauffeur. So congrats to you. Eric, waiting times in Roscommon. I think it's about 10 weeks, Eric. I didn't see anything on my list about Roscommon being longer. Castlebar, right? But not Roscommon. Clifton is there. No, as far as I'm aware, according to the RSA's figures, the waiting time, pardon me, in Roscommon is probably about 10 weeks, and that's what the RSA are striving to get to folks, to have every test centre in the 26 counties on 10 weeks as a waiting list, which is a goal that they hope to achieve later in the month as testing returns to normal. Abdullah Khan, had to skip my driving test as my driving instructor said I wasn't ready. Well, if the driving instructor said that, you have to trust what the driving instructor says. A lot of people are rolling up to do a driving test and they're just not ready. Sometimes people coming from far-flung places of the world, like India and Pakistan and places like that, and they may have reduced EDT, and the 6 lessons, so they basically only have to do 6 EDT lessons. But even that might not be enough, because there is a fair bit of a learning curve to, get up to speed on Irish driving standards compared to what you'd be doing over in those parts of the world. So sometimes the extra few lessons can do you the world of good, just to make sure. But that's why it's good that you folks all watch my videos here, and as I said, I want to share my knowledge to help you achieve your goals. But realistically, you can't be getting practical driving lessons from a professional driving instructor, and they will help point you in the right direction. So use my videos as a backup, as a guide, but they should not be a substitute for proper professional driving lessons, where the instructor can give you advice and tips and tell you if you're ready or not, so you don't waste your time applying for a test if you're not ready for it. Okay, let's see what else we have here then. Abdullah Khan, the best luck to you anyway whenever you do your test. If you have any questions, just let me know. Email me at danetyghe@gmail.com. So good luck to you. Good luck next time. GTA Master, I think that is. Any idea of the waiting times in Navan, Dane? I think it's 10 weeks on average there, GTA Master, if I'm saying that correctly. I didn't notice anything unusual on the thing here about Navan. No, Drogheda alright. Let's see. Let me see out, and 10 weeks. Yeah, Drogheda is the longest one, but like the waiting list in Drogheda is the longest at 16, 17 weeks. Then you have Mulhuddard, Killester, and Galway, varying between 14 and 16 weeks. Any test centres outside of those ones I mentioned are probably around the 11, 12, or maybe 10 weeks, okay? And I would say in the coming weeks that, all going to plan, the RSA will get the waiting list down to 10 weeks in the vast majority of test centres, because they feel confident enough that they'll be able to do that now. They have new testers, they have new test centres, so it's going in the right direction. That's what they say anyway, so. Again, I think anyone know the rules around non-conducted test? Does it count as a fail? Well, it does if it's your fault. Like if you, for example, if you start your driving test and you turn up without a proper insurance disc, or the tester looks at the brake lights and the indicators and sees that not all your brake lights are working, like the left or the right brake light is not working, or sees that your bumper has decided to hang off, or you don't have an L plate or something like that, that's a non-conducted test and it's your fault. So you have to take the hit on that. But if it's a tester's fault, like a tester is out sick or something like that, or what else, like I don't know, like I can't. But if it's the RSA's fault, they will give you another test free of charge, if you know what I mean. But if it's your fault, you take the hit. Anton Slavic, that's absurd. I'm not sure what is, but something is. Mohammed Riaz, hello Dane. I passed my test on the 3rd of February. That's great news. Oh, hang on, I lost that guy. Hang on, I was going to scroll up my comments here. So bear with me, folks. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Mohammed Riaz, how do I pass my test on the 3rd of February? Well done. Thanks for all your videos. Really helped me. Finally, I passed on 3rd attempt. Thanks a million. You're very welcome, Mohammed. Congratulations to you. You proved a good driver, very good driver, and you did it. And sometimes when you pass on the 2nd or 3rd attempt, you probably have a bigger and better appreciation for your full license now, okay? So you have a full European license. Well done to you. Congrats. Anton Slavic, didn't pedestrians always have right of way from the beginning of time? People were here before cars. Yes, and the way Irish pedestrians go on, you think that they have the right of way and always had the right of way, but that's just guidance from the highway code. But fair point, Anton. Amit Singh, if turning left, hang on there now. Amit Singh, if turning left from minor road to a major road, so let me minor to major, like a stop sign or something, at a T junction, and the signal is green, but if the signal is green now, it's not. Minor and major doesn't come into it because it's controlled by lights, I presume you mean. But I'm also seeing a stop sign board. Oh god. Should I keep going left? or first stop at the signboard and then move? My God, there's a question and a half. I don't know. I find it hard to visualize that. Amit, are you? Maybe you could. Maybe you could email me a picture of that, perhaps, if you know that, if you can, because I don't know. That would be very unusual. I mean, stop signs and traffic lights generally don't go together. Um, Normally it's one or the other. Maybe if the stop sign was 30 or 40 meters before the traffic lights, you'd stop first and then move on to the lights. But that would be very unusual, and you're going to have to email me a Google Earth or a Google Map screenshot or something, because I can't. I can't actually. I'm struggling to visualize that. Okay, so if you want to email me, danetyghe@gmail.com there. Mihal Fahy got my test on Wednesday. Fingers crossed. Mihal, best of luck to you. Gunyari Lat. One road at a time. Live in the moment. If you get nervous, don't think about the nerves. Think about your breathing. Best of luck to you. Liam McHugh, that name rings a bell. Liam has been emailing me recently. See you then. See you in the videos, or maybe email. Best wishes to you, Liam. Thanks for getting in touch during the week. Anyone else? Any questions? My email is there. So good luck to you, Liam McHugh. Anton Slavic, something in the water. Yeah, something about Carlo. And believe me, I love Carlo, because one of my great hobbies is hill walking, and there is no better place than to be hill walking on the Blackstairs Mountains, which is on the border but straddles both Wexford and Carlo. So nothing personal against Carlo. I just heard some testers up there have, the dark cloud hanging over them. So feel free to email me any of your experience of driving tests in Carlo if you've had a bad experience, folks. But if you have had a bad experience, you need to report it to the RSA. Okay, you do not accept any of that kind of stuff. I've reported testers in the past. It doesn't happen very often, because the vast majority of testers are incredibly efficient and professional in my experience, but there's always going to be a few bad eggs. You'll always get a bad seed here and there. Moving on, folks. Just going to be finishing up soon, but I want to get to all these comments if I can. Where was I? Yannick, Barbara, I have my driving test tomorrow. The best of luck to you, Yannick. One road at a time. Don't worry too much about the theory, and don't drive too slow. Just drive normally, okay? But the very best of luck to you. Email me if you have any questions. Daniel Frawley, I think. Would you recommend a busier time for traffic for the test in Dublin, or a quieter time? I've heard different opinions from different people for which is better. It's a tricky one, because you could get a test at a quiet time, and you could still get someone doing something stupid. A quiet time, there's less traffic on the road, but it could lull you into a false sense of security. Busier time, traffic is moving a bit slower, so you've probably got more time to think, and you're more time if you're in queues of traffic, you're probably going to be able to see ahead more. If I had to choose one, it's probably better to have a quiet time, if I had to choose one. But it's much of a muchness, Danny. I mean, it all depends on the day. Sometimes hazards can come from nowhere on quiet days as well as busy days. Liam McHugh says good luck, absolutely. Aidan Darcy, now there's a name I do recognise. Aidan is an ADI in Drogheda. I emailed Aidan last night, and I can help with any questions. Indeed, and thank you very much, Aidan. So if you're doing driving lessons in Drogheda, or you're looking for lessons, Google Aidan Darcy. Okay, folks, he's a driving instructor up in Drogheda, and he's there to help you. I've been in touch with Aidan a good bit lately, and he's been a good source of support to me. So Aidan Darcy for driving lessons in Drogheda. I'd say he's plenty of work anyway, because as I said, the waiting list in Drogheda is one of the highest in the country. Neha Sharma, hi Dane. Last time I lost around 8 points in progress and gears. I drive manual diesel car. Do you have any suggestions? Yes, drive faster and work on your gears by getting driving lessons. If you're losing marks on progress, you're going too slow, you're a bit indecisive. Diesel, I'm not sure it matters too much. I mean, I'm not really big into diesel cars for doing driving tests. I know diesel cars are on the way out now, but if you're doing a driving test, I feel you're better off in a petrol car, because it's better for town and city driving. Diesel cars kind of pull more, and they're a bit of a pain sometimes. Like, they're great if you're driving on motorways, like, if you're driving on the M50, a diesel car is what you want, like, but not necessarily for a driving test. Look, it's just all down to practice. I don't know specifically where on progress you lost out, and what's the story with gears. but maybe you chose the wrong gears, maybe you spent too long in third gear or second gear. Hard to say. If you want some more detailed feedback, you're going to have to give me more information, and you can do that by emailing me, danetyghe@gmail.com. Anton Slavic again. If a tester messes with me, I'm opening the door and leaving. I'm not a child. Feck the queue and feck the fee and the queue. Well, you know, Anton, you look like you don't take any nonsense, so fair play to you. I would say most testers are fine, though. Most of them, the vast majority of them, are very kind of good at what they do, and they're very personable, friendly, professional. But as I said, there's always a few exceptions. Shezvan Jlanka, if I'm saying that correctly, I'm probably not. Hi Dane, just wanted to thank you for all your videos, they're very helpful. Any advice on how to calm down before the driving test? I have my test on the 14th and stressing already. Yes, first step, watch my video on driving test nerves I made a few weeks ago. It's the video with the green thumbnail, and a lot of people have their hands up like that on the thumbnail. So check that out. In that video, I advise people to not think about the nerves, to focus on the breathing. So for example, if you're sitting in the waiting room or sitting in the car waiting for the call, focus on the fact that you're sitting there. Feel the weight of your body against the seat. Feel the weight, and focus on the weight of your feet against the ground. Do breathing exercises. Don't constantly think about the driving test until you're actually doing a driving lesson, or until you get closer. Maybe you will have to think about it. But if you think about it too much, you're going to be overthinking it. Okay. If you want some more detailed info, I can email you on that. So my email address is there. Hudson Amarante, hi Dan, my first driving test in 1 week. I'm sure your videos will help that. Well, it's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when, Hudson. So the very best luck to you. One road at a time, and listen to your driving instructor. Make sure you get lessons. Dylan Virgo, hi then, cheers for the vids, man. Keep it up. Passed test first time, great stuff. 2 or 3 weeks ago with a helpful maneuver and the theory question refresher video. Well done, Dylan. Congratulations to you, and you showed yourself to be a very, very efficient driver. So congratulations and safe travels. Stephen Powell, have my test this coming Thursday. Any tips? I've hundreds, thousands of tips, Stephen. They're all in my videos. Don't drive too slow. Position, keep left to center, but remember your position depends on the road. So wide road, keep more left. Narrow road, keep more central. As we learned, don't go too slow on the reverse around the corner. Just take it one road at a time. It all people ask me if I have any tips. It depends on your own worries and your own weaknesses and things you maybe don't feel confident on, But the best of luck anyway. If you get lessons, I would recommend getting a lesson the hour before the test, because as I said, it'll help warm you up for the test and get you in the right frame of mind. Dean Collins, have my theory test, I think, this month. Getting 31 out of 40 already. What do you think? Well, you need to bring it up by at least 4 anyway, by the looks of it, Dean. If you check out mocktheorytest.ie, there's a good site you can go to there to practice on. Mocktheorytest.ie. You just need to practice more. You can do some sample questions on the website, or you can get the app as well. But you'll get there. Just practice, just study, and it's a journey, not a destination. Sharath Kumar, any legislation in discussion to allow learner drivers to drive alone if they complete 12 lessons? No, not that I'm aware of. I don't think that's going to be happening, Sharath Kumar. If you're a learner driver, you have what's called a learner permit. So that's permission to learn. Okay, so the idea is that you have someone with you to help you, or to supervise you, or to help you out of a tricky situation. The idea of driving alone is what we would call a backward step. That's like going back to the way it was before, and generally we don't want to do that. We want to move forward and not try and encourage unqualified people to be driving on the roads, because for one, it doesn't make any sense. 2, it's dangerous, and 3, that's because this is the way it is. Eddie Fitzpatrick, for reversing around the corner, you have your left indicator on when stationary, but do you keep the left indicator on when reversing, or do you put your right indicator to you are moving? No, don't put the right indicator on anyway. If you want to leave the left indicator on, yes you can. Just remember to indicate right when you do want to move off properly the next time. On the reverse around the corner, whether you indicate or not, it doesn't really matter, okay? It's not a big deal. The most important things are about observation, not going too wide, watching out for other road users, okay? So you can leave the indicator off on the reverse, or you can leave it left. Doesn't matter. Don't lose any sleep over it. It's no big deal. MG, hi, any suggestions on what to do to keep the car far enough from the left not to hit the parked cars? I have a large car and I keep hearing from my sponsor that I'm too close to the left. The sponsor might be getting a little bit excited because they're so close to the left, so they might be telling you you're too close when you might not be that close. But I've two words for you, okay? Reference points. So I have a video on clearance on stationary vehicles that I made a couple of months ago now, I think, maybe in the summer. I think it's a green. I'm not sure about. I'd have to email. Like if you email, who asked me that question? MG. Okay, whatever your name is, MG. If you email me at danetyghe@gmail.com, I will email you back a link to that video where I discuss reference points on how you can judge whether you're a door length from the parked car. Okay. What you could do on your own is drive up beside a car in a quiet car park. Make sure you're a door length. If you're less than a door length, reverse the car and come a bit further, come back and then go forward. Make sure you're a door length. If you are successfully a door length, come in, close the passenger door, look over that way, and you'll be able to see where the top of your passenger door is in some kind of a reference point in relation to their door handle, for example. And that can be a guidance for you, a reference point for you that you're a door length from parked cars, okay? But I explain it better and with more visual aids in the video. So if you want that, email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, okay? Or just search in YouTube Dane Tyghe clearance and you should get my video on that, okay? Sean Clerkin, hi then, picked up a mark on a pretest for misleading signals. My instructor said I don't need to indicate every time I go over the center line. Yes, true that is. How do you know when to indicate when doing this? You see, it's a hard one to answer. Normally you would indicate when you're crossing the center line, but you don't have to indicate if you're already over the center line. So if you've already come over the center white line and you're already out, and there's parked cars there, just indicate for the first parked car, okay? So let's say there's a line of 7 parked cars. Don't keep the indicator on for every single parked car. Just keep it on for the first car. When you're beside the first car, knock it off, okay? Turn it off, because otherwise it becomes misleading. People might think you're turning right when you're not, okay? Other time, like normally you would indicate when crossing the center white line, but there could be a good reason. There might be exceptions, like, but that's the best example I can give you. Let me just read that again. So don't need to indicate every time we go over the center line. Sometimes there's a bit of discretion involved in that as well. You know, I would say you were more likely to indicate more often than not if you're crossing the center white line. But a long line of parked cars is an exception where you don't need to. You just indicate for the first car, okay? There's probably a few times when you don't need to indicate every single time. I don't want to just say every single time because there's always, there's always going to be a few exceptions. Okay, so just if you have any questions there, Sean, just email me on that danetyghe@gmail.com, okay? Moya McGowan, how bad would rolling back be when waiting on a hill start be? Not too bad, Moya, if it's only a little bit. But if you were to roll back like a meter or two, well, that's not going to be good. If you roll back only about 12 or 13 inches and you correct it quickly and then move off successfully, no big deal. So it all depends on how much you roll back by. It's not an easy question to answer. There's no one size fits all. It all depends on how much. But always remember, whether it's rollback or whether it's a signaling issue or an observational issue, if you make a mistake, do not dwell on the mistake. Don't be fixated on it. Just move on, get on with the test, and you will have more than likely plenty of time to make up for any mistake anyway. Very often a mistake is much bigger in a learner's mind than it is in the driving tester's mind, okay? So don't forget that. Pravish Sharma asks, would you have a series of videos to help start preparing for a driving test? Basically, a playlist grouped together that can help me start my preparation. Well, the vast majority of my videos are for that. You look like you're looking for some kind of specialized driving course, Pravish. Like, if you check out on my YouTube channel, if you go to the homepage and then go to playlists, okay, you're going to see driving test tips, a playlist called driving test tips. Most of them have a yellow thumbnail, so they'd be the videos that would probably help you most. But I have separate ones on Tyghe as well, which are also part of the driving test, and technical checks. So it's like I categorize them into different areas like test tips, live streams, shorts, theory, position. I don't categorize them like for the driving test because they're all essentially for the driving test. If that makes sense. Ahmed Silawi, I think, how to reduce stress before the test. Check out my video on driving test nerves, very recently made, the one with the green thumbnail. I give advice there on um, breathing tips and how to live in the moment and not to overthink the driving test. Okay, so check out that video and you will find out some good tips there on how to reduce stress. Ahmed. Stephen Powell, should you be checking blind spots and mirrors twice when pulling off on the hill start, before pulling off and just as pulling off? Yes, that can be done too. You can get your first one, and then if it takes you any longer than a few seconds, you can get a second one. It shouldn't be a problem. I've seen people do that before. It's no big deal. As long as you're not, as long as you're not doing anything untoward in relation to people in front of you. But it's especially important there, Stephen, if there's any kind of a longer delay between your initial blind spot and actually moving off. Okay, so it's very important to keep the blind spot refreshed. Okay, but there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with a second one. It can just be a confirmation one. Yeah. Thomas Denmead, watching your videos helped me stay calm and pass my test first time. Then just want to say thanks. You're very welcome, Thomas, and well done on your success. Congratulations, great job to you. Stephen Powell, will the tester care? Hang on, or no. Let's get back to Stephen Powell there. Will the tester care if you go 51 or 52? No, no big deal if you do that. Is it better to be going 46 or 47? It depends on the road. Some roads you might be better off going 46, 47 if it's, if there's speed bumps or if there's parked cars. 51, 52. See, I don't see. It all depends on the situation. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say you're better off going 51 or 52 in a 50 zone rather than the other way, because that shows more confidence, that shows more efficiency, and it shows you're not driving too slow. But like, that's by no means is that a one size fits all question, because there's so many variables there, and there's so many ifs and buts attached to that question. Okay. What does grade 1, 2, and 3 mean? Hot Saws asks. Grade 1 is a minor mark, doesn't really affect the overall result. Grade 2 is a medium mark, major but not too major. If you get 9 or more, it's a fail. Or if you get too many in the one area, it's a fail. The grade 2s, that is. And grade 3s are serious. So like a grade 3 is like not stopping at a red light, for example, or pulling out in front of another car. And if you get one grade 3, that is the end of the test. You failed then. Okay, so they're just different levels of marks there. JJ Sachs, tips for automatic. Yeah, stay and drive most of the time, especially at lights, so you're ready to go. You should still use the handbrake when you're in an automatic on hills, because as good as automatics are, they're not immune from rolling back. Believe me, they do roll back from time to time. You would use park on if you're stopped on the hill start and you're pulled into park. You could use park, but the majority of the time keep it in drive, and it's not that different to driving a manual car apart from the gears and clutch. We'll all be driving automatics in years to come anyway. I've made a video on automatic cars there, where I did it in conjunction with Ian Daly from Safety First Driving School in Dublin. So if you're looking for automatic driving lessons in North Dublin, get in touch with Ian Daly, Safety First, okay? Tell him I sent you. He's a good guy and he knows his stuff when it comes to automatics. So, who asked me that question? JJ Sachs. Yeah, check out my video on automatics, JJ. All the tips in that you'll need, okay? Stephen Dolan, what do I need to qualify for emergency worker? I believe, I haven't checked that in a while, but I believe you need to be a frontline emergency worker, like a doctor or nurse or something like that. If you check the RSA's website, they should give you that information for that. Okay, they do have a, as far as I'm aware, there is a way you can get an emergency test if you're an emergency frontline worker, but you have to be like emergency front, like in the healthcare or something like that. So check out the RSA website, Stephen, for that. You should find out more information there. Liam McHugh, hey to you, Liam, good man. I have my test. Crypto EU has test in tip on Wednesday. Best luck to you, Crypto. Hope it goes well for you. Just take it one road at a time. Sean Clerkin got invited within 3 days of applying for the waiting list. I then have a test in Finglas, I think, with 3 weeks within three. Well, that's quite good there, Sean Clerkin. Within 3 weeks of your invitation, within three days of applying. So that's quite good. Yeah, that's quite good. So they are getting on top of the waiting list. That's good news. Orla Hegarty, how would the test change for an electric vehicle car? Thanks for all the great information. Well, it wouldn't be that much different, Orla. Good question. But like the observation is going to be the same. The position will be the same. It'll be essentially like doing a test in an automatic car. A little bit easier because you won't have to worry about gears or clutch. The technical checks might be a little bit different, so you might have to point out the charging slots in the engine, things like that. But I'm hoping to do a video on electric cars very soon. I'm hoping to go to a local dealer and open the bonnet of the electric car to show you what it is and what they'll ask on that. But to answer your question, like apart from the technical checks on the bonnet and that kind of stuff, and maybe a question on charging and all that kind of thing, and the fact that it's automatic, it's not going to change that much, okay? But that is the way it's going, and we'll all be doing that eventually, maybe 10, maybe 15 years down the line. It's hard to know. But you're very welcome, Orla. Best wishes to you. Anton Slavic, GTA Master, sounds like somebody I want on the roads. Indeed. I forget what that's. I remember GTA Master there, yeah, but I forget what that comment is in reference to. Stephen Powell, what's the story with an L plate on the back window if the back window has a factory tint and the L plate is slightly hard to see? Will the tester say anything? No, I've seen that before. Tester in Wexford anyway hasn't said a word, even though the back window has been tinted. If the L plate is there, that's fine. Don't say anything. They didn't say anything. If you're concerned, just be prepared to maybe have it on the back bumper or get the magnetic one. The magnetic one that has the magnetic strips. Just have a spare one just in case, so you can stick it on the back where the lights are as well. But I've seen L plates with tints on them, and there's been no issue there with testers. Okay. Connor Owens, hello. Is it automatic fail if you perform a U-turn in more than 5 turns? The road I was brought to was very narrow and did it in 7. No, it's not an automatic fail at all. Absolutely not. The idea of the turnabout, you mean, Connor, is that you do it safely, efficiently, with good looks, good quick steers, try not to hit the curb or anything like that. But like if it's a narrow road, you that's fine. Like just take as many as you can. Like, but don't drag it out. If it's a wide road and you can do it in 3, well then do it in 3. But there's no law stating that you can't do it in more than 5. You need to take as many turns as is required, as many turns as is safe, and that's the way to look at that. There, remember, it's far more important that you're aware of your observation and technique and good clutch control, things like that. It's not about how many you do it in. Okay, folks, so I'm hoping to just finish up there now soon, folks, when I get through the rest of the comments. RV failed 3rd time. Feel like I'm never going to pass. Your videos are very helpful. Listen, keep at it, RV. I'm glad the videos help you, but you just have to keep at it. This is a journey, not a destination. You will get there, but you have to stick at it. Anton Slavic, nothing should be on the windows, including L or N plates anyway, right? Yeah, generally keep your windows free of any clutter. Obviously, you have to have your insurance disc and things like that, but so you have room then for your L plate. Generally speaking, there's nothing. There's no law saying that you can't have anything on them, because I've seen stickers on, like garage stickers or something like that. But generally speaking, just on the back window you'd have your L plate or N plate, whatever, and on the front you'd have your insurance disc and that kind of stuff, and the L or N plate too, if required. You're not alone, RV. Don't get in your head about it. Yeah, good advice. Sahil Shetty, hello Dane. Dane, I am worried about driving on the motorway and really anxious while approaching an exit. and changing direction. What can you suggest? Well, practice. Maybe get some lessons from a driving instructor. Post learner lessons, if you know what I mean. There are plenty of driving instructors that will give you some motorway lessons. I have a few videos on that as well that might help you, but you just have to take it one step at a time. Motorways generally are safer roads because they're all going in the one direction. The road surfaces are good, well marked, well signposted. So a lot of that fear might only be in your head, but fears are there to be overcome. So best wishes to you. Are Aviva instructors worth travelling every week for? It depends on the instructor. I don't know. I know Aviva have some great offers on insurance, and they are well worth checking out because you can get it. You can get some very good deals there. And you can get your lessons and a year's insurance, I think, or your 12 lessons and 6 months insurance free or something like that. So Aviva are definitely worth checking out, folks, for helping you get on the road at an affordable price for insurance. Paddy Butler, your videos helped me pass. I told all my friends doing their test about you. Thanks a lot. Paddy, thank you for the support. And well done on passing. You obviously have to be a very good driver to do that. And now you've got a full European license for your troubles. So well done, Paddy. And thank you very much for the support. Let me see, folks. Just going to get through the rest of these comments here now. How many times can I ask the tester to repeat him or herself? Well, I wouldn't be going asking him every single time, but you can ask them to do that. I mean, some people have hearing problems, maybe have maybe a dodgy hearing. Don't be afraid to ask them to repeat themselves, because there's nothing worse than having that anxiety on the test. The majority of them won't mind. They'll understand. Jamie Carroll, failed my test last week because the brake light wasn't working. Well, that's probably a non-completion test then, I suppose, but working now. Have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to go again. Even though the test center is only 3 weeks in. Any tips? Well, first tip, Jamie Carroll, get your brake lights fixed. And maybe you're an example of someone who didn't get a lesson before the test, because if you had got a lesson before the test, something like this would have been picked up, and you might have been able to actually do the test, maybe by getting the brake light fixed or by using the instructor's car. But first and foremost, make sure your car is technically okay to do the test. So your tax, insurance, NCT, no warning lights on the dash, and your brake lights, of course. But best of luck to you, Jamie. Connor Murphy passed first time last week. Your videos really helped me gain more confidence. Thank you very much. You're very welcome, Connor, and thank you for the support. You're a good driver, and you did a great job. So well done. Glad to be of service. Joe Mama, apparently the waiting list for Tyghe is until the 28th of March. 28th of March. What's that? That's what are we in now? February. Yeah, about 8-10 weeks, isn't it? That's normal. Joe Mama, who asked that? Joe Mama, yeah. 28, like from now to the 28th of March is a perfectly normal and acceptable length of time to be waiting for the driving test. I don't see anything unusual about that. Stephen Powell, any tips if finding it hard to keep the car under 50 in fourth gear? Well, at the risk of sounding smart, Stephen, just press the brake maybe. Keep the car under 50 in fourth gear. I don't know, maybe you're driving a diesel or something, but you see, keep an eye on the speedometer. So just be glancing up and down from the speedometer to the road, and just have your right foot over the brake, heel on the ground, of course, so it takes the pressure off, and just keep an eye on it. I mean, you there's not. I mean, I don't know what else to say to that. Like, just you have to keep an eye on your speed in that. Sometimes I know going downhill it can be harder to it can be harder to control. I know I can understand that, but you just have to. I mean, you can't be breaking the speed limit, but if you go over it by a little bit and get it back, it shouldn't be a big deal. Just takes practice, just takes time, practice, and a bit of patience. Just applied last night on the waiting list now. Julia Jane, good luck to you, Julia. Hopefully you will get what you want from the driving test. But remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Well, best of luck to you, Julia. Sean Eccles, how many questions will the tester normally ask in the theory part of the driving test before you get into the car? Thanks for the videos, amazing. You're very welcome, Sean. Probably 5 or 6 each. 5 or 6 questions. 5 or 6 road signs, give or take. Some might ask less, some might ask more. If the tester is kind of in a bit of a rush or he's running a little bit behind, he might only ask you 1 or 2 questions. If he has more time, he might ask you 7 or 8. Generally 5 or 6, and it's only a small part of the test. It's not a major part, so don't worry about it too much. The most important part is when you actually get driving. But I know it's good to get off to a good start, and it kind of gets the ball rolling. Best of luck to you, Sean Nichols. Okay, a couple more comments here, folks. I think I've got caught up on them all now. Thank you from Alexandra Pisheko. You're very welcome, Alexandra. If I'm saying that correctly. Glad to be of service. By my or be me, or I'm saying it, I did more than 3 times turnabout. I got grade 2 on competency. But you could have got a grade 2 on competency for other reasons. Maybe you brake too hard. Maybe you didn't steer the proper way, not quick enough. Or maybe you could have done it in 3, but you didn't, and the tester felt you could have done a better job. There could be a number of reasons for that. It could be a number of different reasons why you got that. LVL General booked my test on NACE on the 29th, got on the 4th of February. That's good news, yeah. 29th of what, January, is it, I presume? And 4th of February. Jesus, that's very quick, yeah. Yeah, I knew NACE was a particular black spot. I think they've got on top of that waiting list in NACE. I knew that over the COVID that was a big black spot for waiting times, okay. But that's good news there. Glad they're on top of that. Stephen Powell, yeah, it's diesel car. I thought so, yeah, keeping it under 50. Not applying any accelerator tends to go over 50, so keep it under 50. So can keep it under 50 at time. Yeah, just have to keep an eye on the brake there, Stephen. I had a feeling it was a diesel car. Yeah, just be aware of the speedometer. This is why I don't advise diesel cars in town, because they can kind of drag the car downhill, especially, and they can make, sometimes you get the feeling in a diesel car you're actually going slower than you actually are, if that makes sense, because they sound kind of different. Whereas the petrol car can make a little bit more noise, so you're kind of more attuned to the speed sometimes. Sometimes diesel cars can lull you into a false sense of security. But a bit more braking, keeping more of an eye on the speedometer and a bit more gradual braking should help you there. Nicolina has an exam in 2 weeks. Excited to sit it. Thanks for the graphic. Good to see you excited, Nicolina. That's the spirit. Glad to be of help to you. Best of luck with your driving test. Hope it goes well for you. Nicolina, oh sorry, I just said that. Andrew Dorn, can you apply for the test before your 6 months? Yes, you can, but it's up to you to make sure that you are actually doing the test 6 months or later. Because if the tester checks your permit at the start and sees you're under 6 months, well, then you're going to be at fault there, and you're going to lose the test, and you're going to lose the fee, and have to reapply all over again. So just be careful on that one, Andrew. Don't take any chances. Craig Diario, Vida na Irlanda, do you think of doing mock tests for? Yes, that is one I have been trying to do. It's just something like that requires me to get someone into the car, and it requires a fair bit of editing, and I just have to see what way it'd work. But it is certainly a good idea. I do hope to do it. I'm hoping to do I have a few videos planned over the next few weeks on electric cars, on avoiding mix-up with left and right, and parallel parking. So I'm hoping to get those done over the next few weeks. But that's certainly a good idea, all right, yeah. How long does the driving part last? About half an hour, maybe 35, 40 minutes, depending on traffic there. Rustev, Gunduf, Milan, I think it is. So give or take half an hour, 40 minutes. Stephen Powell, can you let the car drive without having your foot on the accelerator? Yes, you can. If the car is going downhill, you can, and as long as you're not coasting, it's perfectly fine to be driving the car without actually pressing the accelerator if you have the momentum to do that. Let me see, folks. Just going to get a next comment here then. So yeah, so without having your foot on the accelerator, if you're braking going down, that's fine. Yeah, as long as you're not coasting, that is. By my says, thank you, you're very welcome. William Hanrahan, any general tips on how to keep a position on the straight? I'm not doing over the while moving around my lane at time. Yeah, I've made a video on that recently. If you keep an eye on your left mirror and try and have your door handle kind of in a certain place in the left mirror, so if your door handle is close to the curb, for example, if there's a curb there, that can be a good idea. I'd have to email you the relevant video, but if you check your left side mirror and if there's a big gap between your door handle and curb, that means you're not left enough. Whereas if there's a small little gap, like the gap of your, say, your finger, for example, that's usually better. But it does depend. See, all lanes are different. All the width of lanes is different, so it does depend on the lane. Wojciech Global, any unusual inquiry. After your last stream, I sent you an email, but I didn't receive any answer. Did you receive it or not? Maybe it wasn't a response. No, it was definitely wordy, Wojciech. I have to check back on that, Wojciech. I might have missed it by mistake. I'll have a look back on that. But thanks for getting in touch there on that, Wojciech. William Hanrahan, great videos. You're very welcome, William. Glad you enjoyed them. Anton Slavic drove my sister's diesel car around the back of the house to warm it up. Frightened the life out of me because it barely came off the clutch and it was yeah, diesels can be tricky to drive sometimes. Well, they're fine once you get used to them, but they can pull and drag a bit. Liam Fitzgerald, if applies in all lessons not done, will you be offered a date before all lessons uploaded? Let me see. If application, I think it mean, and all lessons not done. No, all lessons have to be done. You see, for you have to do what you have to make sure all 12 lessons are done, before you'll get a date. They will not give you a date unless all 12 lessons are done. Okay. So best of luck to you, Liam Fitzgerald. Kevin, how? What's the rule with using the handbrake and neutral when stopping in traffic? There's no special rule. There's no rule at all on that, but it's better to use it. So you would use I would advise you to use the handbrake, like at traffic lights if you're stopped a long time, or if you're stopped on hills. So there's no special rule on it, but I have lots of videos on that as well. If you'd like to check them out, check out Dane Tyghe handbrake. You'll see. Stephen Powell, ever heard much about Mullingar testers? I haven't heard much about them. No, I don't hear anything bad about it anyway. Doing my test there on Thursday. Thanks, you're very welcome, Stephen, and best of luck to you with the test. Let me know how you get on. You can email me, let me know. And finally then, James Corrigan, any final tips for a test tomorrow? What's the most important thing? The most important thing is, it depends on yourself, James. The most important thing is, I would say, is if you make a mistake, do not dwell on it. Do not beat yourself up over it. Remember, there's always another road, there's always another junction, there's always another roundabout. Best of luck to you, James. Take it one road at a time. Folks, that's it. I would like to say a big thank you for you tuning in to me. I really appreciate the help, support, and the good wishes. If you would like to apply for the test, do it on My Road Safety. Anything to do with driving licenses or learner permits, ndls.ie. Theory test is there as well. If you'd like to apply for that, do it on the theorytest.ie. And if you have any questions for me, email me at danetye@gmail.com. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And remember, you can subscribe as well by hitting that subscribe button. And you can click the bell notification as well, and you can be notified there whenever I upload a new video. One more question there, Alien123. Quick question: how do you know when you're ready for the driving test? People say you will feel ready, but I have not felt ready yet. I've done around 25, 30 lessons. I'm on the reservation. You see, you will feel ready when your driving instructor says you are ready. When you can do a reverse around the corner effortlessly without kind of swinging too wide and with the proper looks. When you can do a hill start like you're doing a hill start in your sleep. When you can do a turnabout confidently in a tight area. When you almost never forget your blind spot moving off. There's all kinds of, it all depends, but the best way to know if you're ready or not is by asking your driving instructor. He or she will be able to tell you. Kevin, you're very welcome. Stephen Powell, best of luck to you, Stephen. Dean Harris, yes, reversing camera is fine, Dean. Just don't look at the reversing camera all the time. It is a useful guidance. It is a useful to use it as a reference point here and there. We need to be happy with our car's technology. We can embrace the technology on the car. But if you have a reversing camera, certainly use it. I mean, it's great. It's a great feature. Why not use it? Just don't use it all the time, okay? Don't put all your focus on that when you're reversing, okay? But it is a useful tool to make use of, definitely. So, folks, I want to say thank you again. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. I hope to be back again, live streaming again very soon. I have lots more videos planned over the coming weeks, and I will be uploading those as I go along. So if you're learning to drive, the best of luck. Stick at it, you'll get there. If you have a driving test, the very best of luck with your driving test, whenever that is. I wish you all the best. As I said, my email is there. If you have any questions, I will get back to you. But for now, thank you for joining me, and good night to you. I will see you soon. Best wishes and safe travels.